Dr. Shawn Wilson, Secretary, Department of Transportation and Development. Hey, Dr. Shawn, been a while. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Good morning to you.
Guess what? We got a bridge problem. We have an infrastructure problem in Northwest Louisiana. Huh? Are you surprised to hear this?
Well, I am not surprised to hear it, and you probably aren't surprised to hear me say I've talked about this issue for about 3.5 years since I've been secretary, saying that we have an inordinate number of bridges that are not in the best of shape, and that we have a disproportionate number of bridges for our size and also for our budget. We've got 12,000 plus bridges. And what we're seeing in this particular scenario is really a twofold issue. One, the interchange, one of the principal arterials for the products that this company assembles and puts into the marketplace, is too low. And it's actually the standard that we have for interstates, but they need more than that, or they're the standard for overpasses. And so we are working to put a project together that would basically lower the road to give an additional 12 to 16 inches of clearance to get under the underpass. And that's an important thing to do, but we also have to recognize that we have hundreds of businesses that produce really big things, and that's not a sustainable business model. But in this case, we think that for somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000 to $1 million, that we could take that and it would take a reconstruction of the road under the underpass. And so we're working with LED. We're working within the confines of our budget to try and secure that, and I don't have any doubt that we can make that happen. Then there's this other issue of the distance from where they have to ship, and this is just the reality of what we've lived with for some time, that with 12,000 bridges and you have to get to Texas or you have to get to Alabama or Mississippi, and you can't necessarily get on the interstate with your product, you're going to have to cross a couple of those bridges. And unfortunately, I closed my 33rd bridge yesterday here in the state of Louisiana for 2019. And we are going to try and reroute them, and that's what we do because we just can't afford to keep up and maintain all of those structures simultaneously. And so we have a list of priorities where we know 3,000 of those bridges are load posted, which means they carry less weight than they were ever built or designed to do. And that's just like closing a bridge for businesses. And we have worked very hard. The governor has prioritized funding for rural bridges. We announced about a $50 million allocation to rural bridges, in addition to money that was allocated in HB 578. That doesn't really hit our budget until 2021, and it comes with some other complications and strings. But nonetheless, we are working hard to do it. And when we hear about it, we address it.
You obviously are aware, acutely aware, of the Fibrebond situation, and you just explained how you're going to do everything you can to prioritize this. What kind of time frame are, in fact, if you can kind of, Graham Walker, the CEO, he's kind of going, we've kind of run out of time here. What kind of time frame are you for those repairs? Kind of looking at least to get started to sort of calm everything down.
So, we've had this issue. I was made aware of this issue, the governor and I, about a week and a half ago. I think our district administrator, David North, who's very capable, he may have been in discussions with him over time. But with infrastructure, you can't just say, I'm going to do it in 2 months if you don't know what's there, if you don't know what you can do, if you don't know how you're going to pay for it. So we've had to put some of that together. And so we're expecting to have a plan in place in terms of what we want to do. And then it's a matter of actually designing that work. This isn't something that we plan to do. So in the next 3 to 6 months, perhaps we can have our set of plans and be ready to bid. But I think understanding what the answer is and can it be done, understanding how we're going to pay for it, that can happen a lot sooner. And then it's a matter of implementing the plan. With regards to a number of bridges that we're working with the company to try and provide them the most efficient route out, even that, too, has complications because that's a bridge that might have to be replaced. And in order to replace it, I might have to close it, or I might have to build a temporary bridge in order to replace the bridge. And so, let's not take for granted the complexity of this. And so I said all that to say, hopefully within the next week or so, I'll be able to explain to the CEO what we're doing and what time limits and implications we have for that.
Is this an emergency like the Sunshine Bridge was in South Louisiana?
I would say, is it an emergency for that company? Absolutely. Is it an emergency tantamount to Sunshine? I would say no, because that put that bridge in imminent failure and public safety of death. The load-posted bridges, we are very comfortable at the weight that you can go over on those bridges, so I'm not concerned about that. And then the same thing with the space differential. We're talking about moving big products. That doesn't necessarily put us in a public safety emergency, but it's a financial emergency for that company.
But does this move these bridges to the top of your list in terms of bridges we need to fix now? These are now at the top of my list.
The answer to that question is every solution is going to be different, in part because LED is involved. And so when they spend some of their money, they have a different priority that they have to spend. When I have to spend my money because of the federal implications of it, they have different priorities. And so if I wanted to use safety money, I have to demonstrate to the feds that there's a public safety issue involved with that. And the feds are keenly aware of the 3,000 bridges that I have load posted. They're keenly aware of some of those bridges at the end of their functional life. And so I can't promise you that that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow, because I can't deliver it first thing tomorrow. What I can do is put together a plan of how we're going to provide the interim solution, which is get them the fastest level of access to the roads that they need to get across, and to go in and say, how many bridges are on this corridor that you're going to take? You might have 10 or 15 bridges there, and the cost to replace each of those bridges might be $500,000 each.
If Graham Walker says, I do not move this company if these bridges are fixed, and that 750 jobs stays in Louisiana, does Dr. Shawn Wilson say, we're going to do what we can to fix these bridges to save these jobs?
I think absolutely Dr. Wilson and Don Pearson and this entire administration will say, here is what we are going to do to ensure that that corridor is fixed. But remember, we have 12,000 bridges, and I'm not trying to minimize the issue for Fibrebond by any means. I just want to say, which one of the other thousands of bridges are we not going to do? Because every business depends on infrastructure. Every business is going to have a similar case for what needs to be made. In the case of losing jobs, Don Pearson has flexibility to secure jobs in Louisiana and spend money on infrastructure. And he's committed to doing that. I'm committed to doing that. And once we understand what route he needs to take, let's go fix it, because we have the same issue for ports. We have the same issue for rail yards. We have the same issue for farms all across the state of Louisiana, which is why we've invested and will invest on rural bridges $100 and some odd million over the next 3 to 4 years. The question is, what are those most critical routes and critical corridors? And this is going to potentially be one of those corridors. But I need to understand, and we need to sit down with the company and understand where they want to go. If they have to go in a whole different route next year, that's a whole different program. That's a whole different corridor. And so we're committed to trying to secure and ensure not only this company, but every company stays in Louisiana and grows jobs. But we have to invest in infrastructure properly and plan for it, because had we known this a year or two ago, perhaps we would have been in a place to have it fixed by today.
Shawn, let me ask you, since you bring that up, you said you just learned about it a week or two ago. Did you not get a letter about this in February?
The district may have gotten a letter in February, and the district followed through on the work that they do. And so when I get letters, we direct them to the district, who are the people on the ground, to work on that. And so, again, the corridor he's going, I think, 270 miles, I think, is his distance. Or 74 miles. I don't remember the exact distance he's traveling and which corridor he's taking, because it could be any number of corridors on the 16,000 miles I have, or miles on local roads as well. And we're investing in off-system bridges likewise.
Dr. Shawn Wilson, DOTD Secretary, I can't thank you enough for your time this morning. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Thank you.